Hey collective, welcome back to my channel. I am MC 5D Astrology and Tarot, and we are here for another vulnerability message. I'm super excited to deliver this message. I love helping people because I love helping myself. So these are what these messages are all about, okay? I am MC 5D Astrology and Tarot. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't already, make sure that you like, subscribe, turn on those post notification bells. I don't want you missing out on all this good content, okay? I don't want y'all missing out. But again, I'm MC 5D Astrology and Tarot, and this is another vulnerability message, okay? This message is about self-love again. This is part 2 to the part 1 about self-love, okay? And I wanted to kind of just touch on and keep it real. The fact of the matter is, we don't like ourselves. We don't love ourselves. Why? Because we're not taught to. We are conditioned to do everything outside of that. So if we're conditioned to do everything outside of that, how do you expect to like yourself or to love yourself? It's that simple, right? Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about a few things. One of the things I've learned on my journey regarding self-love is, like we spoke of, it's not taught to us, which is intentional. It's meant to keep us living in always needing to rely on someone else or feeling that we're not enough, right? Just like the world we live in, society, they feel as if we need them to survive. Like we don't have the ability to grow our own food, to make our own clothes, to make our own music. Like it's this system designed to make people feel like you need them, and that's just not true. But one of the biggest lies told when we come on this earth is that we are capable of love and liking ourselves, but yet they don't give us the tools and the resources from the very beginning of test of the times to understand how to like and to love ourselves. So again, it's intentional. And once I realized that the system was designed to go against self-love, to go against self-liking, it kind of just made me like, I just didn't understand how to absorb that, because we talk about unity, we talk about oneness, we talk about all these things, but yet as we see on earth, we're not living in it. It's really hard to just communicate. It's really hard to just love. It's really hard just to like, but it's really not, because when you look at children, you see how innocent that we are when we first come in this world. We see how we interact with people. That is a much higher frequency of energy working through us that we already came in this universe with. And it's interesting how society wants to take that away from us, right? So we end up at an early age out the womb, whether we know it or not, all of us are conditioned to not like ourselves and to not love ourselves. And when you don't like yourself and you don't love yourself, or you aren't given the opportunity to know how to go about educating yourself or remembering to love yourself and like yourself, then everything within you is automatically shut down. It's automatically shut down. And your family tree is a hostage in its own body, and it doesn't like that. So it starts to get upset. It starts to feel disturbed. It starts to feel controlled. And then you have all these energies that are feeling like that. And then guess what? They start to take it out on each other. Doesn't that sound familiar when we're dealing with other people? So we internally start to take it out on each other, and it goes just crazy. So our feminine energy, our masculine energy, and our inner child is going crazy, trying to self-identify themselves within other selves, what love is, what like is. Why don't you like me? Why don't I like you? Why don't you love me? Why don't I love you? But in actuality, it's an illusion being taught to us, because I do love me. I do like me. So why am I taught, before I'm even knowing, to not know or to know, not to like me, not to love me? Make it make sense, but humans are all about love. Humans are all about liking. The math is not mathing. It's not adding up, is what I started to understand and come into. So one of the first things I had to do was I had to find out about self-love and understand the system behind it, in the sense of who's teaching us, right? History is teaching us, because everything is about history. Everything's about history. Everything we do is about history, right? It's all about history, okay? So I think it's something everyone can agree on. Every story, it goes down in what? What do we say? History, So if history is teaching us that's the educational system, is history. That's where we get everything fed to us, taught to us. They know it all. They got that juice, is what they're saying to us when we come in this world. So if that is the case, and that's the teacher, and we're a student in that classroom, we're going to automatically sit down, be obedient for the most part, and we're going to take on these history lessons. So we're taking these history lessons on, take them on, and we're starting to put this on ourselves. But yet ourselves are like, what about our story? Wait a minute, hold on. That's not me. That's not me. I'm not playing that role. I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? What? Feminine energy, like, wait a minute, you expect me just to be at home cooking all day and have children? The masculine's like, wait a minute, you want me just to always not be with my family and be working? And wait a minute, what? The inner child is like, my mom and dad are always at odds. They always arguing. They're not paying me no attention. I ain't getting no love. What? Is this how it works? Is this how life is? That's what I started to identify and realize within myself. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that we're not taught to love and to like. We're not taught that. We're taught to operate in a sense of serving someone else. And so we look at love as serving or doing something for someone else in the sense of society's reciprocity, meaning there's a string attached to it. Like, if you don't do this, or you don't act this way, or you do that, or do whatever, then that goes outside of what was taught to us regarding the conditionings of what roles we play, what roles the feminine energy within us play, the masculine energy within us play, the inner child within us play. So which it makes up you, right? Because you have all of that within inside you, but externally, we are literally designed to, once you come out the womb, society tells us if you have a certain genital, that it means that you are a man or a woman. That's the sex that you are. And that's just not true, because what happens is that automatically starts to separate our family tree within us, and our feminine and our masculine and or both get neglected, because then they're in two different classrooms, spiritual classrooms. When they come on earth, they're not together. So then the feminine energy is taught a certain lesson. The masculine energy within us is taught a certain lesson. The inner child growing within both, that, is taught a certain lesson. And then if you take it externally and look at just yourself as one unit, you're taught many different lessons about yourself, about who you are, what love is, what like is, how you should like, how you should love, how someone should love you, how someone should like you. And then we literally take that story, history, and we believe it. We take on these roles, we take on these identities, and then we go out in the world based on the guidebook they give us, and we start seeking partners and people that make up that book. And then we start to ask ourselves, why am I running into conflict? Why am I having so many issues? Because there's too much division. Because your feminine wasn't taught what masculine was taught, and your masculine not taught what your feminine is taught, and your inner child is looking at both like, who do I believe? Which direction do I go? Right? And then your energy is just all over the place. So once I understood that self-love is a system, it's two different systems. You have the spiritual system, and then you have the man-made system. And the man-made system goes against the spiritual system intentionally to try to control it, because it doesn't want you to know your power. It doesn't want you to know your greatness. So when I started to identify that, I realized that the system of man-made self-love is designed to not want you to love yourself. Then I understood that we are all intentionally programmed by the matrix and society, like history, whatever you want to call it, to self-sabotage our inner liking, our inner loving, our inner knowing of what love and like is from the jump. And it's kind of sad, it's kind of upsetting. But in order to learn and to really understand the system we're living in, it's going to trigger you. And it definitely triggered me, because I was like, who out here creating this type of chaos? Like, who got time to sit here and think about these type of things and make it come to life and ruin everyone's life? Like, who has time for this? Somebody had time for it. History did, okay? They had time for it, right? But nevertheless, these teachings start to go within us, and it starts to spread like a disease, right? It's like a cough. It's contagious. So these versions of what love is or isn't, these versions of what like is or isn't, becomes like a cough. and it becomes contagious. And sooner than later, everyone is coughing, right? Or I meant to say yawning. Yawning is what's contagious. Scratch that, y'all. I meant to say yawning. So it's like yawning because yawning is contagious. Have you ever been around someone, they yawn and then you yawn, right? They say it's this contagious thing, but nevertheless, I meant to say contagious in the sense of yawning, not coughing. But some people may cough just because someone else's cough, whatever, take it how it applies. But you get the picture, okay? And what I also learned is what happens is that programming, then it's like it starts to play a different tune within us. It's a different melody within us. And we start to turn off our own music to start listening to history's music, basically. We're not even in tune with our own sound anymore. We're not in tune with our feminine or masculine energy. We're not in tune with our inner child. So therefore, if we're not in tune with ourselves, how could we possibly like ourselves or love ourselves if everything around us in the world is teaching us that we're not enough, that we have to go out and do this to be enough, we have to have this to be enough. If you're not in a certain industry, you're not enough. If you don't have a certain amount of money, you're not enough. If you live a certain lifestyle or live a certain way, and it's, deemed, unconventional, you're not enough. If you don't have a certain skin complexion, you're not enough, right? If your hair is in a certain length, you're not enough. If your body type is in a certain way, you're not enough. Like there's all these different measurements put in place for us to break down our own inner self-love, our own inner likeness. And what I've learned on my journey regarding this vulnerability message is that happened to me at a young age and I didn't even know what was going on, which means a lot of you guys don't know what's going on. And what happens is we don't know what's going on. We keep playing this game. We keep letting this history lesson lead us in our lessons. And then we go and we make another energy like ourselves. And then they're in the same cycle. We're in the same cycle. And what I have learned on this journey is that course correction. Some of us start to really pay attention to this and we make it intentional regarding application behind not behaving in a certain way or changing our behavior patterns literally internally and doing the work so that way that, like I said, that yawn is no more, it's not contagious anymore. Not in a negative sense. We start to take our self-identity back. We start to take back what is and isn't ours. We start to take back what is ours and we release what is not ours. And we start to move in that manner. But what happens is, because we're all conditioned not to love and not to like ourselves, and you start to love and like yourself when you wake up to that energy, that was disturbing you, your actual true authentic self, there's not many people out there is what, I started to see on my journey that are really hip to it. But then I realized there are a lot of people hip to it. So it was like a catch-22. You just have to find your niche. You have to continue to do the work and the tribe comes, okay? But nevertheless, your family dynamic internally is just really ruined. It's just really messed up. And it's unfortunate that we live in a world where we're not taught self-love. We're not taught how to like ourselves. We're taught literally how to do everything outside of that. And for me, I had to really take some time on myself. I had to really go hermit mode, really do a lot of introspection to understand what was going on with me in the sense of why my life was the way that it was. And when you boil down to it, and I started to look at my mom, I started to look at my father, I looked at, my family, whether it was immediate or external, I started to look at my friend groups, my associates, romantic partners, what I'm saying? And I started to realize that nobody was taught self-love. Everyone's seeking something outside of themselves to fill certain voids. And when you don't live up to history's lesson, somebody will dispose of you or they will project onto you certain things. And it just becomes really ugly. And it has to do with not understanding that you are enough, that you are loved, that you don't have to live by a certain book in history in order to be great, in order to thrive, that you have your own internal book that you have to start reading and writing in so you can create and develop your own story. So these patterns don't continue to like exist in our society. It doesn't continue to plague our society, right? So another thing that I also learned regarding just this journey of self-love and some of the stuff we're talking about now is that my inner man and my inner woman, my inner feminine masculine energy basically started to approach the relationship within itself as start to self-destruct each other, right? Because again, I said they were in two different classrooms, and then they came back together, however you want to put it, right? Internally speaking. And so now I had to identify that, oh, they were always from the jump designed to be at odds, to not like each other, to think that one was better than the other, or one had more than the other had, or whatever the other one had, that means somebody that the other one was lacking, or that type of mentality. So my feminine and masculine energy within me was already at odds because it didn't realize that you are me and I am you. So if I don't like you, that means I don't like me. So then you have to ask yourself, make it make sense. Make it make sense. Because I don't think anyone's sitting around intentionally not wanting to like themselves or love themselves, right? And then it goes external as well too, a step further, saying, I don't really truly believe people are out here truly not wanting to love or like people. Because if you look at a child at their innocent stage when we're growing up, we've seen too many videos and have too many references that history leaves for us, right? That we help them leave behind to show us that type of behavior of self-sabotage, self-hate, self-disrespect is taught to us. And when you are taught that, you're going to live that, be in that energy, and you're going to do it to other people. And that's why everyone's out here doing different things or on different pages, because we are taught at an early age that self-love is meaning that it's separate. Our feminine and masculine energy and inner child are not separate. It is all one entity. Yes, they have their own unique styles to them, but they're all living in the same tree. They're all bearing fruit from the same tree, right? That means if you're an apple tree, you're an apple tree. If you're an orange tree, you're an orange tree. You're not going to see an apple and an orange and a pear and grapes growing on the same tree, because they're different. They're just different, but they're all what? Fruit. So they're technically all the same, which leads me back to just the point of I had to realize course correction within myself and realize that I was intentionally designed not to like myself. So therefore, if I'm intentionally designed not to like myself and someone else is as well too, then when we come in union together, no matter what it is or what it's about, it's a grand possibility that we're going to trigger each other. My feminine is going to trigger him or her's feminine. My masculine is going to trigger his or her masculine. And then vice versa. My feminine is going to trigger their masculine. My masculine is going to trigger their feminine. And then guess what's in the middle of all that? Your inner child. And like I said in the first video, we have many layers to our inner child. So imagine being 15 or 10 or 25 or 36 or 40 or 50 or 78, whatever age you are, and you had all those different doorways of your inner child in there that went through periods of learning what love and like is, but it was a period of learning to self-sabotage and self-hate and self-dislike and self-dislove. It makes you want to go crazy. Because I know for a second it made me want to go crazy. Because I'm like, what in the world? Like, have you guys ever asked yourself, why would our history teacher want to teach us this? Why would history want to teach us this craziness? Why would they? Why? I'm trying to find a history teacher, y'all. Y'all know where the history teacher is? Because I'm trying to find them. They need to go. Because they are not qualified to be teaching. Nobody. Not even themselves. Who taught them? That's how I had to start to look at it like that. Like, what in the world is going on? So after that, just realizing that my feminine masculine energy was, basically at odds. I had to then go deep and realize that because of the system, that I was already designed to devalue myself. I'm literally designed to take my energy and to deplete it, to devalue it. So when you think about it, the divine gives us, we are energy. We come in this world and we're amazing. We're like the magician. We can do anything. And imagine someone knows that about you, right? We're going to say the Matrix Society. They know that about us. So instead of allowing us to continue to grow our value and be valuable among other people by knowing our value, they create systems to devalue our value. And one of the first things you have to do in order to do that is control the spirit. When you control the spirit, because you don't know you have a spirit, which is tied to intuition, then the mind is there trying to figure out, who's my teacher? Well, if intuition is not my teacher, like if divine's not who's my teacher then? Oh, you're my teacher? His story is my teacher? Okay, well, if his story is my teacher, then what am I supposed to learn? And then they start teaching us all this crazy crap, and we believe it and we take it on. All of us have been to some type of school, whether it was grade school, Montessori school, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, grad school, doctor school, whatever you want to call it. We've all gone to school, period. But the thing is, what we're learning is not what we're supposed to be learning. What they're teaching us is not healthy. And I feel like a lot of the collective out there can relate, because everyone's going through some type of craziness or trauma. And if you look at the world, we have more craziness and trauma in it than we do, I was about to say stillness, but then that we have balance or unity. And the reason why is because we're not balanced within ourselves. And why are we not balanced within ourselves? Because we don't know who we are. How can you like or love yourself if you don't know who you are? If you don't have an identity, if you don't have some type of book to go by? And the thing is, we do have a book to go by. It's an internal book. However, that internal book has been intentionally suppressed. So nonetheless, I don't want to wrap you guys for too long. But that is how I kind of started to look at it. It's like we're designed to devalue ourselves, to continue to go down in who we are within our energy. It's kind of like the stock market crashing. They want us to continue to crash and have low moments and then go up really, really high, and then have low moments, go up really high, be in the middle, go like that's unbalanced energy, So it's equivalent basically to what I'm saying of self-love and like, you like yourself, you love yourself, you don't like yourself, you don't love yourself. I kind of feel good about myself. And then you're just going like the stock market, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, whatever you want to call it. It's just all over the place. We're all over the place. And we have to figure out what we're going to do about it. I had to figure out what I was going to do about it once I really woke up to it and understood what was going on, and that my internal family tree was intentionally designed to self-destruct itself. And that is how they can control, by self-destructing, by putting my feminine masculine energy in a cage and locking it away. My inner child has no parent, so therefore it's out here running a buck and it's still in its own cage, right? I just heard the Pied Piper. And I just saw Peter Pan for some reason in my head that, permanent just came out. But I want everyone to take away from this message. One of the main reasons why we have so many issues with self-love, with self-identification, with liking yourself, with liking others, with loving others, is because we are not taught to. Period. You're not taught to. Some of us are realizing that no matter what generation you come from, and we made the course correction to change that by changing ourselves and working on ourselves and attracting people that mirror our change. And therefore we can start to raise and breed healthy families and have, I call them onsprings, not offsprings, right? Because they're alert, they're on, they're hip to game, right? They're not out here blind. But then you start to have children who then come from a foundation and see a true foundation of what really like and love is. And even within that foundation, we know the world's going to be the world. So they'll still see all the craziness around. But guess what? That they're covered, they're protected, because guess what? Their parents are in their right state of mind. Their parents are healthy. Their parents love themselves. Their parents like themselves. Therefore, they like each other and they love each other. They know how to be in union with each other, in unity with each other, without chaos, without all of this craziness. They understand the deeper reasoning of things, right? They understand the value of themselves and the value of the person that they're with in union. So then those energies that are on earth start to help shift and change that dynamic of what love is and what self-love is. But don't get it twisted. Those people really had to put the work in. And that's why you see a lot of generations. And this is kind of going in a little bit different direction, but not really. But this is why a lot of the generations, especially like millennials and people that came after us, are not having children, are not getting married in the traditional sense, in the way that history's classroom taught our feminine and masculine energy to do it. A lot of our generations are realizing gender roles. I am feminine, masculine energy. So what you talking about, a gender role? We both in this together. What the difference is, you may have one particular energy that may be a little bit more strong suited in something. So therefore you can allow that person to lead, kind of be the lead in that area. But it doesn't take away from that person, the other person still being able to do it. It's like taking the trash out. One person may not mind taking the trash out. Maybe they thing. So they do it. That's a strong suit. The other person may not really like it. And the other one's okay with doing it. So it works out for them. There's no gender roles necessarily. It's just, this works for me. That don't really work for me. Okay, well, I don't mind doing it. So cool. Okay, cool. But best and believe, if something happens to the person in the relationship that can't take the trash out the day, or they get sick, or they're out of town, or whatever the case may be, or they just not feeling like doing it, it doesn't take away from the other person not being able to do it. They can still go and take that trash out. They may not enjoy it, they may not like it, but they can still get it done, right? We have to stop taking away opportunity for people to learn and to grow and to be better at certain things. And again, that's not taking away from a dynamic where you may have more of a stronger suit in a certain area, and so you let that feminine or that masculine energy lead. But it's more about accountability. It's more about stop enabling people to believe that this belongs to a certain group of people and only they can do it. And this belongs to a certain group of people and only they can do it. And if you try to come over in their lane, oh my God, something's wrong with you. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? Because that goes against the grain of what we're taught, right? That goes against the grain of what society says is love or like, oh my gosh, no, you shouldn't want to do that. But what if you do? So you have to start thinking for yourself. But the first thing is, we have to remember that we are intentionally designed not to like ourselves and not to love ourselves. Once we understand that dynamic and that it's a system, it's a game. It's like the stock market. They want us to be up and down and up and down. Why? Because then we can rely and depend on history to guide us, to lead us. But then we block out our connection with the divine, with our own intuition, and therefore they can't lead and guide us into being back in healthier unions with ourselves, so that way we can be in healthier unions with other people. So I just wanted to kind of, touch on the fact that we are conditioned from the womb to not like ourselves and not love ourselves. So my challenge to all of you guys out here for the vulnerability message is, how many people are able to be vulnerable and take a moment out and look yourself in the mirror and say some truth to yourself and say, do I like myself? Do I love myself? Sometimes it starts with a question. Sometimes some of us look in the mirror and be like, I do not like myself. I do not love myself. After we do that, then we can start to bring change and say, okay, why don't I like myself? Why don't I love myself? Or why am I questioning if I do like myself? Or why am I questioning if I do love myself? Then it goes back to, well, who taught me this type of conditioning? Who taught me to believe this? Like, how did this come to be? Then it's very simple. We all come here on Earth School to learn. So who's our teacher? History. And last I checked, history stories and they references and what they got going on as references, I would not want to hire them to teach none of my children. I don't want it. I don't want history to teach myself no more, or my children, or anybody around me for that matter. Because when I looked at their references, has any of y'all ever thought about like checking history's references to see like, are y'all even, they qualified to even be talking to us? Because they're really not. But a lot of us, again, we're just living in the sense of their world. Hey, we come in this world, we're playing this character, this is what they said we're gonna play, this is what you have to do. And it's just not true. So I hope this message resonated and helped somebody out there that may be having issues with self-love, with liking themselves. And because of that, you're having issues with people around you in general, right? Just your life in general. Take time out to really self-reflect on the parts of you that have been told a story or a lie that isn't true. Take time to think about the parts of yourself, or your feminine, your masculine, your inner child that was told that you can't be this or you can't do that. If you do this or you do that, then you're going to get in trouble. Make the ego be quiet. Tell the ego to shut up and go to lunch. Okay? Tell the gatekeeper to be quiet. Just make it hush for a second, so that way you can take some time out to actually hear the real teacher within you, which is your intuition, because your intuition has access to the highest power that goes beyond this 3D earth. And we need that energy. We need to be able to tap into the energy that really created us, right? And it's, again, unfortunate that we just live in a world that doesn't want us to tap into our full greatness, even though they create an illusion around us that they do. That's what you have to be careful for. There's an illusion around us that, oh yes, the world wants us to be great. We have opportunity. We have this. We have that. Everything's good. No, it's not. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. A lot of you guys are not happy. A lot of you guys do not like yourself. A lot of you guys do not love yourself. And it is okay to admit that. I was there. That's why I'm doing this vulnerability message. I had to take a moment to be like, well, damn, no wonder I was having all these issues. I didn't even, wait a minute. Self-love? Self-like? Oh, that's a thing? Oh, well, then why when I was in class, then, history's classroom, they were teaching me to love everyone else but me. They were teaching me how to get ready for a man, how to, like, they're teaching, the masculine energy the same way. Well, why were you teaching me not to be kind and compassionate and to be loving? Why are you teaching me to be so angry and aggressive instead of assertive? Why are you teaching me to mask my emotions and not to cry? Wait a minute, I'm confused. Didn't my mom used to hold me when I was a baby when I was crying? Didn't I come out the womb crying? So why are you telling me not to cry now that I'm out? Like, why are you trying to silence me? That's what we have to start asking ourselves. But nonetheless, take time out to love on yourself. If you are going through something and you're just having a hard time, know that you are loved. Know that you are liked. And if you're around people who don't know how to love you, who don't know how to like you, the first remembrance of anything that I've said is, remember, none of us are taught how to like or love ourselves. That's the first thing to always remember. And so it is something you have to teach yourself. It is something you learn over time. And the evolution of this conversation, we're getting to a point where now we're starting to have these people identify that. They bring the change and they start to be in more healthier unions with themselves and attract more healthier unions. So now the next generations to come, and even our generations, we're starting to see a difference when it comes to self-love, when it comes to self-worth, when it comes to we're not on the vanity aspect of it. We're not on the surface level aspect of liking someone or loving someone, right? There's not strings attached to it. It's more of an understanding attached to it. It's more of just a place of peace. Because when you really are good with yourself, you're at a place of peace that can nobody take away. So we have to ask ourselves, why would they want to take away parts of us that bring us peace? Self-love, self-acceptance, self-like. It's a part of our peace. It keeps us balanced. So that if we have it, we know how to give it to others. So why would you want to not allow us to know that we had it to begin with, to give first to ourselves, to give to others? Make it make sense. But now I'm gonna end the message here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If this content resonated with your soul, with your energy, make sure that you like, subscribe, share, and turn on your post notification bells. You don't want to miss out on the next vulnerability message. I do want to say really quickly that throughout the month I'll be doing, a few vulnerability messages, and it's just going to be episodes. We're just going to continue the conversation, have this conversation, get a little bit more in depth. As we start to have these conversations, my vulnerability will get a little bit more in depth. So that way I can really connect with you guys, because I want to keep it as authentic and raw as possible. And the only way for me to do that is to what? be vulnerable. All right. So I look forward to being more vulnerable with my collective, talking to y'all, chatting it up. If you haven't checked out the first vulnerability episode, it is already uploaded. So make sure you tune in and check that out. And if you're just coming across this, make sure you tune in and check this out, and look for another vulnerability message as well too. I'm going to be doing about three episodes together. Yeah, so it'll be like a continuation, like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. We'll go into more episodes over time, but nevertheless, I will be uploading a lot of content regarding just vulnerability messages and getting more in tune with our inner family tree, you know, what that looks like, how we identify that, and the components of that, and just talking about the world that we live in and how things are the way that they are and how we can come out of those things. All right. So I look forward to catching a vibe with you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am MC5D Astrology and Tarot, and I will see you guys soon. Until next time, have a good one, you guys. Catch a vibe.